What's up, everybody? Well, today I'm here to show you another vacuum that's in my vacuum collection. This time, it is another Oreck. What I have for your viewing pleasure today is an Oreck XL9100C. I bought this vacuum locally on OfferUp for pretty cheap, and all it needed was just a good cleaning. And so, since these Orecks are so super simple to tear apart and work on, it was very easily able to be accomplished. With a couple other things here and there that I also had to do, it is now here to make its big return, and I figured I'd make a video on it. Even though there are way too many videos of this XL9100C out. Some by other viewers, and there's another variant of it, the XL9100HG, which is the later version of this, that had a helping hand handle on the top with a handle-mounted power switch, versus this XL9100C that doesn't have the helping hand handle. It just has the standard grip, plus also it has a foot switch for on-off, which this is actually the older model of the XL9100HG. But interestingly enough, there were different variants of the XL9100C depending on what year the vacuum was sold in. This is one of the later versions of it that has the cloth outer bag with Oreck's marketed C-Lock hypoallergenic filter system, which is just a very thick cloth outer bag material that they use. There was another version of the 9100 that had kind of like a gray outer bag with the same diagonal lettering, and I think the first version of this had a vinyl outer bag, which initially I wanted the one with the vinyl outer bag because of just how cool looking it was, and also it shows how old the cleaner really is. But I'm okay with this one the way it is. Besides, the C-Lock hypoallergenic filter system on these late style outer bags definitely do filter much better than even just the first cloth style outer bag that they put on these style cleaners. But so, now that I've pretty much blabbed about everything, let's go ahead and give a walkthrough of the cleaner. So like I said, this being one of the lower end versions and also the much older of the Oreck XL lineup, it doesn't have the helping hand handle, which was designed by an orthopedic surgeon for people with arthritis and actually received an award from the Arthritis Foundation because of that. But I honestly like the standard handle grip for the way it feels when using. I'm not really too keen on the helping hand handle because I honestly can't speak for others because I don't have arthritis. But just the way this feels when you're controlling the vacuum is honestly what makes it more comfortable for me. And one interesting thing I like about these handles is that there's always this little plastic cap here on the back that prevents the rubber material from walking off the upper shaft, which is kind of interesting touch of detail. I've never seen any of these Orecks with one of these missing rubber grips. And you also will notice that the cord doesn't match the color of the handle. That is because this cord was replaced at one point. I had to do this because the original cord had a bunch of tears and rips, and there was some exposed wires, so that would have posed a fire hazard, so I ended up replacing with a new generic cord that also was white to be period correct to the color of the cleaner. It's about 30 feet long, but however, because these foot switch models, they are mounted directly at the motor, and when they come up here to this upper strain relief to the top, you lose about a couple feet. So really the cord only stretches to about 28 feet versus say if I were to mount this up Like if it were a helping hand handle, that wouldn't have gotten the full 30 feet of length, because the cord coming out of the motor would go up in the handle to tie in to wire the handle power switch, and yada yada yada. So other than that, it's still a pretty nice, decently long cord, even for a foot switch model. And like I said, this is one of the various outer bags that were available on these XL9100C models, depending on which year. This being the later one, it does have the cloth outer bag with the C-Lock hypoallergenic plus filter system. Very thick material on this bag. It definitely filters pretty good. And per usual, I did install HEPA cloth CC bags. It is a generic bag, I should point that out. And I did have to cut the top off of the bag collar just to get it to fit and have clearance so it's not digging into the upper cloth. So that wasn't a major deal. This one is old enough to not have the bag docking system, which you can add on these in placement of an actual clip that currently holds the cloth bag in place. But that can be added on if you want a more convenient self-sealing bag. And as usual, it's got your traditional diagonal Oreck lettering on the front. And one thing I do like about these later style 9100 bags is this nice red piping that runs across the front. I've always liked that on these 9100 models, because the like the blue, almost stone gray color of the actual cleaner kind of blends in well with this red piping on the outer bag. I just like the way it looks. And right down here on the front, you have your signature dual beam headlight. Earlier XLs, they used this rectangular style before they revised it and rounded it off on the XL2 series in later years, which some like this, and I'm kind of in the middle. I do prefer the XL2 style a bit better, just for like nostalgia reasons, because a lot of my family members had XL2s back then. But the rectangular style does look nice and old school. And obviously you do have the white bumper guard. And also you do notice on the back here, you do have your foot operated on-off switch. And let's go ahead and show you the underside. Does have a newly replaced brush roll in it. It is a Cleveland Wood Products made brush roll that can be offered as a replacement. It is one of the later ones with the metal end pulley, which that doesn't mean anything, but the original brush roll would have had a plastic pulley. I know some can argue on which one is better and which one grips the belt a lot better, but I've never seen any issues with it. But this brush roll is very soft, which kind of speaks volumes about this vacuum and its cleaning performance, because it's a well-known fact that these classic Oreck XLs are just not very powerful, and their performance is about as average as it gets, even though this is a direct air cleaner, which everyone knows direct airs are known to produce more airflow than they are suction. But because the motor is so small, which also is what allows this thing to be so lightweight, it doesn't produce as much suction and airflow compared to its larger competition. And add into the fact that the brush roll isn't the stiffest, it doesn't do as good. But one thing I will say though, despite the brushes being very, very soft, the bristles are very dense. I mean, just look at how close together they are. So I honestly think the performance of this is much better than people make it out to be. I mean, yes, the performance isn't top tier, but it's not awful. But you will notice the brush roll is a chevron style, meaning it funnels all the dirt into the center, where it is then taken away by the center suction path down inside there. And this is one of the earlier styles of base plates that were used on older Orecks that did not include front wheels before Oreck started marketing these to be able to be used on bare floor, which honestly I would never do because the brush roll doesn't turn off. But the ones that were more successful being used on bare floors were the ones that had the front wheels right behind where the brush roll sits. And even though this does have a squeegee to prevent dirt from scattering on bare floors, I still wouldn't use this on bare floors because it has no front wheels. And also that the brush roll doesn't turn off. So that's another reason. And one more thing before we tip this thing back up, I will go ahead and, actually let's do that now and show you the model number. It is Oreck Cleaner model XL9100. Which this can normally be grouped as the XL9100C because it's a foot switch model. 120 volts, 60 hertz, 3.2 amps. And if anyone knows how to serial date these Orecks, please let me know. I want to say this thing is from the mid-90s. And is made for the Oreck Corporation in New Orleans, Louisiana. Once again, this is 3.2 amps, so not the biggest of motors. So you will notice that it doesn't draw the full 4 amps like its later versions would. But the one thing I do like about these 3.2 amp models is that they don't run nearly as loud as the 4 amp counterparts. Now, also, the other reason for that is the motor design of these 3.2 amps and even the 2.8 amp models, if anyone remembers the video on my XL100C, the motor design is very similar between those two, but it's a lot different than the later 4 amp models that they would use from the late 90s to early 2000s. So it doesn't run nearly as loud as the 4 amp counterparts in later years. So right now let's go ahead and release the power cord. It unfortunately does not have any quick release cords, so you do have to unravel it all together in one. So let's go ahead and plug this guy in. So that's the only inconvenience to these models without the helping hand handles. Those added a quick release cord hook. But this one's good just how it is. It's not a major deal to unravel the cord without rotating a cord hook. But anyway, like I said, the motor isn't as loud as most later Orecks are. But one thing I do like about the motor is that the fan impeller is actually made out of metal. Now, yeah, it's actually an aluminum fan, so it's not the heaviest of things. But surprisingly, they hold up pretty good. And they can take much better abuse than a plastic fan would, but that doesn't mean that the vacuum is fully indestructible. Keep in mind, the fan chamber is still plastic, so I would still be wary of what you pick up. Although, yeah, these metal fans would last a bit better than the plastic fans would. I do know that. But anyway, with that said, let's go ahead and switch this cleaner on. And we will go ahead and give you a demo of this cleaner running. such a simple cleaner. And I don't know whether or not this is a fluke or not, but this vacuum seemed to have that effect where the brush roll is so strong, it is actually pulling the cleaner forward. I've only seen that happen on any XL21 series vacuum that I've owned, but I've never had that happen on an XL Classic cleaner. But other than that, I hope you've enjoyed this video on the Oreck XL100C. Be sure and stay tuned, and don't forget to like, rate, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.